Hi, this is Stephen Van Kampen-Lewis. It's July 19th, 2020, and today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about sunshine and heat in summer. As many of you know, I live here in Texas, in central Texas, and in mid-July, it's really hot. In fact, this is really one of the only times of the year here in North America where everybody is experiencing fairly similar temperatures in terms of from the perspective of growing orchids, we all have to deal with hot temperatures and strong sun this time of the year. I was in my greenhouse. You can kind of see behind me there. It's empty now, as you can see. I've taken all the plants and put them behind me that were in that far greenhouse. It was consistently about 5 degrees above normal, or above ambient temperature. And I did everything I could to bring the temperatures down without adding a cold wall or a wet wall. And so what I did is I took the panels off the top, off the sides, that side right there, and then that side right there. And I assumed that would be enough to let the air, any hot air trapped by the greenhouse, escape. And it just didn't happen. I added a big giant fan and figured that would blow the air out, and it didn't work. I was bumping up against 105 degree temperatures when it was only 99 outside and things like that. And I know that here in Texas, it gets to actually 105 fairly regularly. So if it's gonna be 105 outside, it'll be 110 plus in the greenhouse, and it wasn't acceptable. So I just pulled everybody out, and I've got them under the shade of the oak trees here. And I'm glad I did that. The very next day, the temperature hit 108 degrees, not in the greenhouse, but in the shade here. So the greenhouse must have been much hotter. And I am monitoring the temperatures. I use Sensor Push, which is a really cool little device. And I just have it, actually you can see right there is, it looks like a dog bowl. That little dog dish has a little sensor underneath it. And I keep it under there so that when I water the plants, A, it stays shady on the thermometer, and B, when I water, it doesn't get the thermometer wet, because it's kind of stuck under that dog bowl. But so I get live temperature updates whenever I check, and I'll show you a picture right now of what it looks like when I look at A, my temperature, and then B, I can click on and see the trends for that particular day of temperature and humidity. Or I can even see the trends for the past week or month or year. It's a really cool little device. It wasn't expensive. I think it was probably close to $100 for the little thermometer and then the device that connects to the Wi-Fi. But anyway, back to the summertime heat. I had moved all these plants outside, and I thought that I knew where my sun was in terms of having full bright sun compared to the shade of the trees that I'm now sitting under right now. And it turns out I didn't. I came outside, a couple times, and I was seeing heat stress on my plants, and I'll show you an image or a plant that has heat stress. And then I was seeing sunburn popping up, and I was wondering, why is this happening? Why it shouldn't happen? So, but I came out at I'm working from home like so many people in this COVID-riddled world. And so I'm able to come out in the afternoon, in the morning, and see my plants, compared to the sun. And I'll show you some pictures right now. Actually, I came out at like noon, on the second 108 degree temperature day, and my plants were still getting blasted by full sun. And you can see, right there, this rack right here. Up top is my Nobeliores, and down below I've got my shade lovers. And I figured that having a whole bunch of plants on top would shade those lower plants, but it turns out that the angle of the sun at noon was hitting them at full blast. So, this is a story that I see over and over and over. As y'all know, I'm a veteran grower. I've been growing since I was a kid in the early 1990s. And I thought I had a pretty good handle on this, but sunburn happens. You know, so many of us put our plants outside in the summertime and bring them inside in the wintertime. And this time of year, it's really, really common for people to say, oh my God, my plants turn black. I had no idea. They're sunburnt. You know, what do I do? So this whole sort of storyline, you know, kind of inspired today's discussion of what is sunburn, what is heat burn, what causes them, how to prevent them, and really I want to hammer home the importance of understanding what your sunshine looks like throughout the day as the sun is moving across the sky compared to the shade of your plants, especially if you're growing under sort of a natural shade system in the way that I am right now. So, you know, it really pays dividends to know, you know, where the sun is, where the shady spots are during the brightest part of the day, the hottest part of the day, and even the not so bright and hot part of the day, so that you can maximize your sun exposure, especially for the bright loving plants like my Cassidum rack, which is right over here, and then my Cattleyas that are behind me. You know, these guys love heat, they love sun, but there is a limit, right? There's always a limit, and exceeding that limit can damage your plants and even kill them. And unfortunately, I get to show you an example of that right now as well. So just be aware of heat and sun, and if you're taking your plants from a shadier condition, or if it's under lights and you're taking them outside, you know, treat those plants as a pale-skinned person, you know, who can develop pigments to help block the sun, but not right away. If you just throw your pale-skinned friends into the sun without giving them ample opportunity to develop those pigments in their skin, they're going to burn. The same thing happens to your plants. These Cattleyas love the sun. They can take a crazy amount of sun, but it can't be all at once. You know, they need to get used to that sunshine, especially as you're transitioning your plants from indoor growth to outdoor growth. The sun is brutal, and the heat is a really major problem with damaging plants. It's not necessarily just the sun. So you can have a plant that loves heat, that loves sun, but if you combine both of those elements improperly, they're going to hurt your plants. And for example, I'm going to show you this little seedling. I really hope it survives. This is Cattleya General Pow. The parents are cerulean and crossed by a friend of mine, and you can see that's what sun damage looks like. When you just have these massive black spots or parts of your leaves show up, you know, really quickly. It generally, it's not this sort of slow blackening. It's like you come outside and one day this leaf is black, and it's not mushy, it's not yet crispy, but it will be because that leaf has died. But you can see there is a second leaf coming out on this newest growth that turned black, and the sheath down here is black, and I've got a whole bunch of seedlings back there that look just like this, and it's really frustrating. But you know, they'll bounce back. It's okay. I'll show you an example of heat stress or heat damage. You can see, rather than being black, this is a sort of a tan brown. And unlike the black one that sort of you can feel all the moisture is gone from this leaf, this black leaf, you can still feel that there's moisture in here. And this is really heat damage more than sun damage. So this isn't caused by just the temperatures hitting 108. This is the temperatures hitting 108 and there being very bright sunshine on this. And it wasn't bright enough or long lasting enough to cause the leaf to go black, but it's still, as you can see, this part of this leaf is basically dead. It is no longer it's no longer full of chlorophyll and creating nutrients for the plant, you know, and same thing for this guy. So while This is just straight up sun damage, and this is more like heat damage. The effect is the same in that it kills your leaves. So if you end up getting sunburn, you know, your plant hopefully will survive. I've seen some really bad cases where just the whole plant is blasted. And I will show you an example of that. This is one of the few bulbophyllums that I grow. This, as you can see, is Kampen-Lewis. It is colchicine treated. It is from Florida. And Bill Toms, this is specifically from when Bill Toms visited Austin some time ago. So this poor little plant is toast, and that can happen. So I really want to talk to you or implore that paying attention to the sun relative to your plants and heat is super important, especially this time of year. And I also want to tell you that if you get the mixture of sun and heat right, your plants can take 105 for months on end, like mine do. You know, heat alone is not, you know, it's funny, I'll see posts where the temperature got up to 85 or 90 degrees, and suddenly the grower is freaking out and thinking the plants are all going to collapse. And I'm like, no, it's right now, as I'm filling this, I looked this up, and it's 91 degrees out here, which is about 10 degrees cooler than it has been for the past couple of weeks. So we're having a cold front right now. But those types of temperatures don't bother most Cattleyas. Of course, you know, knowing the heritage of your Cattleya, especially if it's a species, if you're growing one of the cool growing Sophronitis, they used to be Sophronitis, or these Mexican Lelias, you know, they're not going to take this well. They're not going to do well. They'll die pretty quickly. But you know, your standard bifoliates and unifoliates, they have no problems with this. And catasetums, there really aren't cool loving catasetums or any of those genera that we typically grow from the Catasetini. So crank up the heat, crank up the sun, just not necessarily at the same time. And if you can provide, on those hot days, if you can provide a little extra shade or some air circulation, you know, you can see these are some big tall Cattleyas behind me right here close to me. In a couple of hours, there is a sunspot right here I'll show you. This particular sunspot will travel all the way over and hit these guys with very, very bright sun at about 4 p.m. And I'm watching that closely to make sure that it doesn't burn anyone. So 4 p.m., you know, the sun is starting to get weak enough and temperatures are slowly cooling off enough that I'm not too worried about having direct sun on some of these larger plants. And they seem to be okay. But yeah, so long story short, sun is good, heat is good. Those two combined can be dangerous. You know, pay attention to where the sun is in the sky compared to your plants and the shade. And really, if you want to sort of skip all this and not have to deal with this, you know, maybe have your plants in a place where there's 0 trees, none whatsoever, and you can control the shade. You can add a shade cloth that's 40, 50, 60%, whatever works for you and your plants and the conditions that you have, and you're able to sort of, you don't have to play this guessing game that I'm playing because I'm growing under trees. So, you know, there's different options. Of course, just not even putting your plants outside. You look at Bernie Butts and up in Canada, he's got catasetums in his basement all year round. He said he stopped putting his plants outside at all. He has no bugs. He has no issues with burning. So, you know, that's another option if it's something that's available to you. So anyway, I hope all of you are doing well. Give me a like if this was a good episode, and I hope to have a show and tell for you sometime in the near future. Talk to you later.